Good evening and welcome to Have I News for You, where debate still rages after last week's show, with viewers such as Mr. Nicholas Miles sending photographs to prove that Paul Merton has never resembled Anne Widdecombe. Elsewhere in the news this week, Britain's biggest cocaine smuggling trial, Exhibit A bursts open. At a central London hospital, word spreads that Health Secretary Alan Milburn is in the middle of a painful rectal examination. And at rehearsals for Children in Need, producers regret booking Yuri the Dancing Cossack. Ian Hislop's team is someone who is determined to be known as a broadcaster in her own right and not known simply for who she's related to. Please welcome Cherie Blair's sister, Lauren Booth. And with Paul Merton tonight is an Observer journalist whose recent book about New Labour caused Gordon Brown considerable personal pain. Had to spend £17.99 to find out what was in it. Andy Rawnsley. Round one is traditionally where the cracks appear. Ian and Lauren.
That's Black Rod, Black Betty.
Replaced by Michael Martin.
They had a ridiculous contest where they had to sort of say why they should be Speaker. And he said, I come from Glasgow and my father was torpedoed in the war. And Sir George Young could only say, well, I come from Eton so he won. Yeah. That was about it, wasn't it, Andrew?
Yeah, it was. Although, in fact, he said his father had been torpedoed 3 times in the war.
That's fantastic.
Sir George Young could have said.
Did the Germans have it in for him particularly?
Yeah.
And what traditions has he dispensed with, the new Speaker?
He's not wearing the wig. Or
So I think he's got rid of the black stockings.
Really? That's a pity, isn't it? He's still wearing the cravat. He's dispensed with tradition. He's very New Labour. Off with the old, but just a little bit left. Bit of a cravat here. Yeah. And he was a tiller girl.
Yes, that's Ian getting slightly old and befuddled. This is the election of the new Speaker. Michael Martin is the first Roman Catholic to be Speaker for over 400 years, but according to the Times, he has hardly set the place alight. Well, the last Catholic to try that was hung, drawn and quartered. Paul and Andrew, your green piece.
Tony Blair has decided he's going to save the world. So he's made a speech on the environment. And he said he'd been inspired. That's, I think, why we saw Ewan. He said he'd been inspired to take an interest in these things when one of his ministers came round to the House. And Ewan suddenly piped up, obviously more expert than either Tony Blair or the minister. And that, says the Prime Minister, is why he first got interested in green issues. So the lesson to any member of the Cabinet is to hang around Leicester Square looking out for Ewan, take him out for a drink and bend his ear, and then it'll become government policy.
Does he bend his auntie's ear?
He doesn't bend my ear. I was just thinking the last time he's supposed to have made policy was over the dome, so we hope we have more success saving the world.
The Ewan test.
Right. You ever seen him looking green?
No.
Because that's not the only place you're an aunt. You're an agony aunt as well, aren't you?
Yes, I did work for a lads magazine called Front.
You were Luscious Lozzer.
I might have been.
Luscious Lozzer's Love Lounge was your agony aunt page, wasn't it?
Don't remember.
What were you, Angus? What were you, Lonely of Islington?
Actually, I was very impressed. I read somewhere that you'd gone round when Ewan was ill and said, the main thing here is why hasn't he got any mates who picked him up? Which I thought was the only sensible thing that was said about it.
Yeah, well, it's an aunt looking after a nephew, isn't it? It's quite right.
Exactly.
Yes, Auntie Lozzer, well done. This is the pro-green speech that Tony Blair gave to an audience of environmentalists. In his speech, the Prime Minister promised to encourage a nationwide initiative of curbside waste recycling schemes, or kebab vans, as they're more commonly known. Ian and Lauren.
Someone hitting a golf ball. This is the Blair Witch Project.
Are there kangaroos running havoc over some very nice golf course? And
Beckenham Place Park Golf Club, it is, yes, near Lewisham. And what has the Mayor of Lewisham done? Did you read this? What's the Mayor of Lewisham done?
He's sung Tie Me Kangaroo Down Sport.
He's appeared on television to appeal for calm.
It's not exactly Jaws, is it? entire populace of Beckenham running around. A kangaroo! Get out of the water!
A TV crew did attempt to find it by going undercover, which we can see now. What does kangaroo mean in Aborigine?
It means, I don't know. Is that the story that Captain Cook arrived and they saw this strange creature? He said, what's that? And the answer was kangaroo.
Then it means I don't know. Is the right answer, yes. Yes, this is the kangaroo who has been sighted several times at a golf course in Beckenham. The Daily Express photographer was the only person who managed to snap this exclusive shot. That's in Beckenham High Street. Everyone else must have been looking the other way. And lastly, Paul and Andrew.
No, but this is, of course, the mighty dome. There's going to be a rave party to close the dome. They're going to be there. And there's the rave party happening. Ministry of Sound are going to be throwing this great big party. Everybody's going to go to the dome. At the end of the dome, that's the end of the dome, everybody goes to a party.
Perfect answer. Have you been invited in?
I'm one of the DJs, then. Slim boy slim. But it's a very good idea because it generates no money at all for the lottery or the taxpayer, which is fantastic. And they've given the whole party to Ministry of Sound, which is run by a friend of Peter Mandelson's. Coincidence again, isn't it?
Do you want to name him?
He's called Palumbo.
He is.
Which is the Aborigine for I'm a friend of Peter's.
So you weren't at the Dome for the big one last year, Lauren?
I refused to go.
Why?
I totally objected, because it's a complete waste of money, it was obvious. I was going to have a T-shirt made saying...
Why are you the only member of the family who thought that was obvious?
I was the only one who wasn't asked.
But didn't Cherie have to go and drink champagne because they didn't have any drinking water?
I saw the same pictures you did, and that was the NAF sort of holding arms and...
Well, the Queen didn't know how to do it, did
Yes.
she? She
tried
wasn't
to.
ready to do that, so she did one of these. Tony was doing this to the Queen.
But there were lots of letters in places like the Telegraph saying the Queen actually acted correctly, because protocol is you only do this in the second bit. In the first bit you go... "Do, do, 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 do," and then you go... "Do, do," and the third bit you go...
That's the rave. That's the rave.
Sorry.
This is the news that the Millennium Dome will close with a rave organised by the Ministry of Sound on New Year's Eve, a move immediately condemned by the Shadow Minister of Sound. An all-night rave for 15,000 partygoers is planned. I hope they have an enjoyable and fun evening. It is an excellent way to celebrate Britain's youth culture, said Lord Falconer, adding Beau Selector. So, at the end of that round, the scores are perfectly balanced, unlike the panellists, being that they are 4-all. In round 2 this week, we're turning faintly journalese with a couple of stunning bon mots ripped from the tabloids to decipher. Ian and Lauren, your literary gem, Leak House.
This is about a leaky building, surprisingly. It's another building disaster paid for MPs, portcullis.
This is new offices for MPs, which, as you can imagine, they do need to do whatever it is they don't do.
Well, we can see a picture of the offices. What's curious about that shot?
Don't be silly.
She's got her legs crossed.
Something even more
It's the
curious.
fig trees. Yes, because they've got this amazing tropical climate inside it, Kew Gardens style.
To make them
the
put
only
there on
trees that will
holiday.
grow in there are not trees you find in Britain, so they've had to import some fig trees.
Although there is something even more about the transaction, which is rather odd, because they haven't actually bought them, they've hired them.
They've hired them.
They've hired them for 5 years for £150,000. And do you know how much they cost at a garden centre?
A fiver?
£94 each.
That's amazing. Now, what leaks? The roof?
Well, a couple of things. The roof and the fountain, apparently, which is, I thought, what the point of a fountain was, but there you are.
It's amazing. I'm expecting to read a headline in a paper sometime saying, "Something in Britain doesn't go wrong." Shock. Nothing works, not even an office block. Really pathetic.
Oh, it's
isn't
an
it?
outrage.
It is.
Let's move it on.
I was on the train from Tunbridge Wells this morning. I really am disgusted, I tell you.
They spent all this money on security, and they discovered a 4-inch gap between the wall and the door. Very clever.
Yeah.
And who can get in a 4-inch gap? Peter Mandelson? Probably not Edward Heath, really.
Have you been disowned by the Labour people, though, since you've blown the whistle on all their feuds in your book?
No, not at all. I mean, I've had a few wounded telephone calls.
You don't want to tell us. You don't want to tell us who those calls are from.
No.
Because I thought that
Just between you and me, Ian.
Yeah.
You know, and
You're
your
a bit
9
coy
million
in the
viewers.
book about that one about Gordon Brown being a loony.
Psychological flaws is
Yeah.
the phrase. Yeah.
You don't want to tell us who it was, do you?
No, but there are some clues in the book.
Right. Someone with the initials TB.
He could be one of the people who answers
Not
to the
Tony Benn.
description.
So can you confirm that it wasn't Alistair Campbell?
I can confirm or deny nothing.
It came from a top source.
It came from somebody who I described at the time as somebody with an extremely good claim to know the mind of the Prime Minister.
Well, it's not him then.
Yes, that's Alistair.
Got an idea what's in his head.
Yes.
Do you go to the same barbers as Portillo?
Which barber does he go to?
I mean, the place where he gets the big flick done, because you've got a bit of a do there. It's nice, it's a good look.
I mean, any other little sort of fashion notes?
No, he looks good, he looks
Right,
good.
OK, from Auntie Loza. This is the £230 million Portcullis house, which MPs moved into this week. Much of the cost is due to the fact that the building site is in the centre of London. Neighbours have already been disturbed by the constant noise and vibrations, but one phone call to Robin Cook's office soon put a stop to it. Labour MP Ray Powell defended the £150,000 spent on 12 fig trees, saying they are for decorative purposes. Now, there's me thinking it was for a small-scale logging enterprise. Paul and Andrew, your cryptic spinner. Someday my plinth will come.
Oh, this is Chris Eubank waiting for his holiday snaps.
More boring answers. Trafalgar Square?
Yes, in what way?
Well, Ken Livingstone wants to get rid of a couple of the old generals who are currently occupying plinths and put some different characters on the plinths.
So who are they wanting to get rid of?
Well, I can't remember his name. It's sort of General Horrocks or
General
something.
Napier.
And General
Henry
Havelock.
Havelock.
Yeah.
The man who relieved Lucknow.
These are the sort of things you know if you're in Tunbridge
she?
Wells.
I pass the Napier one every morning, and on it says, this statue was put up by public subscription, the largest part of which was paid for by ordinary soldiers. This is a genuine historical monument put up by working-class persons. So, I mean, Ken really has not much of a leg to stand on. Just because he's never heard of them doesn't mean nobody else has.
But aren't they...
he'd put up statues of Fenner Brockway. You see? But Napier made a joke.
Yes.
Terrifically good, this joke. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah.
He was in the Sindh province, and he took Sindh. So he sent a telegram back to the Foreign Office, with one Latin word on it, peccavi, which means I have sinned. You see? Terrifically funny Victorian joke.
I think you should take his statue down tonight.
So what are the other plans for Trafalgar Square that Ken has
He
up his
wants to
sleeve?
do pedestrianise it, doesn't he?
And he wants to bayonet pigeons.
I don't know about Ben.
Millions of them. Oh, yes, he does. He hasn't told you the
Didn't he
truth.
have a lot of pigeon stuff thrown at him through animal welfare people? They were threatening to throw droppings. I don't know how they were collecting them, scraping them off the plinth
No,
or
you just
something.
grab a pigeon, just squeeze in his general direction. Oh, we've all done it. Don't pretend.
He did evict someone from Trafalgar Square.
Yes, the guy who sells all the birdseed. And then he sort of complained and he came back again. So it's going to be a bit of a court case.
I don't know what Mary Poppins would have to say about all this. It's a bit of a worry.
It is.
Feed the birds.
Tuppence a bag. Tuppence a bag.
Yes, thank you. I think got the
Very,
reference.
very moving song, actually.
It is. All around the cathedral, the saints and apostles. I mean, it's all there.
Look down as she sells her wares. This old lady there singing, her, you know, selling her little bits of seed to the pigeons. What's she going to do?
I think I've just lost the will to live.
Well, that's good news for everybody.
And where's Ken currently appearing in the West End?
He's appearing in Geoffrey Archer's play.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
He's the voice of the jury. Unbelievable. Archer's there pretending to be tried in the hope that everyone will think he's innocent. And the voice comes out. You're the jury in the audience. I know this because I've been to this play. Isn't that sad? And Ken's voice says, we find him not guilty or guilty. But it's usually not guilty.
How did you vote?
I voted guilty from the minute I sat down. There's a buzzer and I'll pay pressing it.
Ken Livingstone spelt out his plans to curb the number of birds in Trafalgar Square in no uncertain terms. Either we cancel the feeding concession or we consider giving pigeons contraceptives. Because the real problem will be persuading them to wear one. Which general mayhem means at the end of this skirmish, both teams seem equally resistant to the idea of leading, sharing as they do 6 points each. Our third round, voted by viewers our penultimate, is the undignified scramble for points that masquerades as our odd one out round. Paul, your deceptively simple foursome are Leo Blair, Dylan Zeta-Jones, Rocco Ritchie and William Hague.
Right, Rocco Ritchie, the third one there, is he the only one whose dad was a pillar box? His father's eyes is what I'm saying.
There have been some pictures of William Hague as a baby appear quite recently, though how you can tell the difference, I'm not sure. Is that right?
It's not in any real sense of the word right.
Is Leo Blair's the odd one out? Because he's the only one wearing a soap dish.
That's also not true.
They were all born this year except William Hague, who was born yesterday.
They've all had stars named after them in the sky.
No, they have all been victims of cyber squatting, with the exception of William Hague.
Nobody'd want to squat on his cyber.
What is cyber squatting, oh great one?
Well, it's someone basically nicking your name and creating a website.
What's the point of people doing this?
They make money by selling it back to the original celebrity.
Because they think you will be so desperate to have your own website
Oh, I see.
that you will immediately buy it.
Right.
Or they'll do something so embarrassing on the website that's linked to your name that you'll
have to buy.
stopped immediately.
I would have thought Cherie would do that, because hers is a very odd website. Do you know about this?
No.
It's a bizarre internet site hosting erotica.
Like every other website.
How do you host
One
erotica?
giant top shelf.
You three people each other, here's some biscuits. You in a leather mask, would like a cup of tea? You must meet the Hendersons, they're into SM and donkeys. One lump or two. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. In fact, the reason why we can't show you a better photograph of Dylan is because he sold the exclusive rights to OK Magazine for £600,000. Did you consider OK Magazine for your wedding snaps, or
No.
bit down
no.
market?
Very down market.
So you went for
absolutely not.
Hello?
Oh, yes.
Right.
You didn't really, did you?
Yeah.
You had your wedding in Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And there wasn't a chocolate bar in sight. Thank you
What,
very
you
much.
failed on that one, did you?
Yeah, I didn't get the sponsorship.
Damn. Damn. Next time. Yes. Yes, they've all been victims of cyber squatting, with the exception of William Hague, whose website is owned by William Hague, though admittedly not William Hague the politician, but William Hague the naturist. Following the birth of Leo Blair, a spokeswoman for the White House rang to say the president is delighted to hear the news. The news presumably that the baby looked nothing like him.
What are you suggesting?
Andrew, your divine beings are Gordon Brown, Kenneth Clark, David Beckham and the Pope.
David Beckham was involved in a contretemps involving driving recently, and Kenneth Clark has always liked to drive around Grand Prix circuits, and no doubt the Pope's quite mean in that Pope-mobile. That would make the odd one out Gordon Brown, because Gordon can't drive.
It is to do with driving, it's slightly more specific.
Is
than that.
is the Pope the only one who's got a mirror in his hand? They all had sex with a nun.
I can give you a clue, which is basically the answer. It involves an escort.
They're Ford Escorts. They've
They're
all
not
driven
all
Ford
Ford
Escorts.
Escorts.
Apart from...
Apart from... Well, Gordon can't drive, so he can't have driven a Ford. So, Gordon Brown's the
is
other
the
one.
right answer. Well, you claimed that he lied about Bernie Ecclestone donation, didn't you?
No, I did say they stretched the truth until the elastic snapped, yeah.
So he lied.
Why did you sell that story to the Mail, by the way, when you worked for the Observer?
You want to reach out to as many people as you can.
But they pay you to write political stories.
Well, they pay me to write political columns.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Which contain a lot of stories.
The good ones you keep in a little book. And sell to the Mail.
No, it doesn't quite work like that.
No, I bet it doesn't.
It's much more complicated.
Yes, the answer is that they have all owned a Ford Escort, except for Gordon Brown, who hired one whilst on his honeymoon in August. David Beckham used to drive an Escort when he first moved to Manchester. Beckham's PE teacher at school said if you stuck a girl and a ball in front of David, he'd put his arms around the ball, leaving Stan Collymore to kick the girl. So, Lauren, your international superstars are Robert Kilroy-Silk, Mick Hucknall, Barbara Follett and Kiichi Miyazawa.
This could be about Labour donations or support for New Labour.
People who've been sick.
OK, so
Is
I've
he
got
the
it.
guy that George Bush was sick
yes.
on? The guy on the bottom right?
So he's the old one, because he's the only one who's been puked on, and all the others
No,
are puked up.
Martine McCutcheon puked on Mick Hucknall's hair. That's why he had his dreadlocks cut off.
Very good.
Somebody was sick on Robert Kilroy-Silk. Well, I mean, you'd only have to look at him. And Barbara Follett's the odd one out.
Is the right answer. Yes, the answer is that they've all been vomited on, apart from Barbara Follett, although she was on an edition of Kilroy when another participant threw up over the host. This month, after swiging champagne all day at an Oasis concert, Martine McCutcheon threw up all over Mick Hucknall. According to the Daily Star, as she noticed bits of her vomit still tangled in his hair, she kept apologising. Sign of a true lady. And finally in this round, Ian Peter Mandelson, Geoffrey Robinson, Venino Kiti and Cliff Richard.
And this is people who have given freebie holidays to Lauren's sister. Jeff Robinson used to put Blair up at his farmhouse in Tuscany. Right. Cliff Richard, when the Ewan incident happens, Cherie was staying with Sir Cliff. And I think he's a man in the Seychelles who has an agreeable spread where the Blairs go. I think they've all had free holidays except Peter Mandelson, who...
Wanted a free house.
Yeah.
Well, actually, not only that, but since resigning over the home loan scandal, he had a free holiday in Antigua and free trips to South Africa and Italy and Portugal and France and Corfu and Albania and 3 in America. But you didn't quite get Venino Kiti's identity correct.
Is he Italian?
Well done.
Yeah, Italian.
Oh, he's not the Seychelles. Is he the man whose house they stay in
Tuscany. That's right. And what do they call Blair, the Italian press?
Mr. Blair.
La Scrocone.
Beg your pardon? None for me.
La Scrocone. It means the scrounger.
That's it?
Yes, it does.
Gosh, they're jolly rude, the Italians.
Not
aren't they?
very good. Defending the expense of the holiday, which he offered Peter Mandelson, the Antiguan High Commissioner, stated there was no real cost because the house was there anyway. An argument that you might like to try as you check out of your holiday villa this summer. Which foreign affairs mean at the end of this break, well, Ian and Lauren, it is, who are a bit lights on, no one home, trailing as they are 10-8. And so to the joyous prospect of a final missing words round, a colourful swathe of half-cut headlines, including several, many or less, from this week's guest publication, the success story of the decade, Rabbiting On. So, eyes down, look in, on. NASA tests flying what?
Jetpack. This one's got 2 windmills on it, go for hours. 84 miles an hour, 1 gallon of petrol.
He's been reading his papers, hasn't he? Yes, scooter is in fact the answer, but that's what it's referring to. There we are.
That's the one.
That's how they'll accommodate.
See, that's never going to happen, though, is it?
Why is that then?
Well, imagine 15 people coming out of a pub. 11 o'clock on a Saturday night, taking off in one of them. How long do you think that's going to last?
According to
I mean,
NASA.
you know, at the best of times, you piss against a car wheel. Up there... You know, you go to the tax inspector's house, piss down his chimney. It's a charter for people who want to piss down people's chimneys. That's what it is.
Yeah. Next, Haig's what with the ladies?
Sexual intercourse.
No, don't be ridiculous.
No.
It's,
A hit.
in the right area, yes, a smoothie with the ladies. And lastly, search on for Britain's top what?
Rabbit.
Horse.
It is from Rabbiting On, and it is
Funny.
indeed.
Oh, well
yes,
done.
rabbit, well done. Have you ever owned a rabbit, Lauren?
I had a small rabbit and a very horrible boyfriend at the time, and one night he'd said to me, go and make me dinner at once, wench, or something along those lines, and I made him dinner, and while I was doing it, I was clearing up these rabbit droppings, and I thought, if you've ever seen them, they look very like pepper grains. So I put them in the pepper grinder and gave him his meal, and then I watched him grate them all over his
Which well-heeled responses mean at the end of tonight's Load of Old Cobblers, this week's flip-flops are Ian and Lauren with 11, whilst this week's Clever Clogs are Paul and Andrew with 13. But before we give them leave to take theirs, the brief appeal of our caption competition.
RAF demonstrate precision bombing of Kosovo. Rail track take over golf courses.
Beckenham kangaroo is arsonist.
Is there ever a man in a jetpack pissing down your chimney when you need one?
On which plausible note, we say thank you to our panellists, Ian Hislop and Lauren Booth, Paul Merton and Andrew Rawnsley. And I leave you with news that at Tate Modern, the Queen puts on a brave face as a new bust of her is unveiled. There's excitement at the world's slowest steeplechase as a rider is unseated at the first hurdle.
What's wrong with that one in the middle? It looks like a jelly mould. Has he got mumps?
And in Birmingham, a pensioner has trouble deciphering the assembly instructions for an IKEA table. Good night.
Big Comedy Thursday gives you Gimme Gimme Gimme, Men Behaving Badly and Game On, all from 9 on Thursday, funnily enough. The doors to Room 101 will be surrounded by burning bras next on UK Gold. Jermaine Greer is in the chair.